there you are. We'll see if that works. So I wanted to check in firstly. I guess last week I had to mix things up a bit, didn't I? Last week. So I wanted to check in, and I thought this was I can't make that any bigger, so I will read it because that is very small. So this is the module agreement that we did right at the start, and I thought based on what happened last week, it was worth refreshing and going over the module agreement, the group agreement. So we talked about what you need to do to be successful, what I need to do, and what does the learning environment need to be like. Okay, so I guess in the context of group work, always helpful to start off with a contract or a group agreement at the start. It's always helpful to review it because the things sometimes as groups work together, things change, or actually things that you didn't anticipate being an issue become an issue or whatever. So we talked about what you need to do. Turn up, well, on the basis that you guys are here. You've done that one certainly for today. Be organised, do and engage with work, communicate and support each other, be good team workers. What I need to do, I've certainly achieved the first one, because I've set you quite a lot of work, so tick. Answer emails, generally okay, I think, with answering emails. Be supportive, hopefully. Last week I did do my back in halfway through, so I felt like after break I was possibly not the most supportive. Give constructive feedback. Be engaging and keep us on track, brackets, shout. That was in the context of the... I need to work on that one. What does the learning environment need to be like? Supportive and engaging. So, what do we think about that? Anyone want to give any comment or reflection on any of those?
I feel like when we go into class and people haven't done the work, it does affect us all overall.
Okay.
Because we're not able to have that engagement.
Yes.
Because there's bits where sometimes there's certain people constantly bringing it and others
Yes.
aren't. So we spend half a lesson explaining what we're actually talking about because we're working in prior.
Yeah. Yeah.
I find that an issue for me. Anyway.
Okay. Thanks, Joey. That's really helpful. And I guess that was kind of where I was coming from last week, where I was feeling a little frustrated.
I didn't do that.
And I know last week was particularly problematic because of the assignment and all of that kind of stuff. But actually, it's difficult for me sometimes to know, to notice exactly what's going on in groups. But yeah, so that thing. Or we could just do it right in the session. That will really put me off if I have to listen to, because that's not how I sound. Not in my own head, that's not how I sound. Okay, so there's something like, now, there was also last week, because I ended up sort of going back to more traditional delivery, and for some people, I remember, Emmanuel, you said, actually, I prefer this, that might not be everyone's experience, and I felt like I appreciated you sharing that and being open with me about that, but I did feel a little bit frustrated because I kind of felt like I'd asked for feedback so many times, and if there's things that are happening that are unhelpful, please tell me. Nobody was telling me, so I'm like, well, I'll plough on. So I guess now we've come through we've done all of the approaches now. It might be a little bit different. We will be doing some group work today. You will be talking about, hopefully, some of the stuff that you've engaged with on PebblePad this week. How are we going to, what are other people's perspectives of that? Is that a reasonable expectation that people are doing it? Or if the work is way too much, then you need to tell me, and we'll have to think about it.
Well, it's just like, we both closed stuff last week. Yeah. And I emailed you saying thank you so much for getting everyone together, the people who didn't work. I felt so much productive because I knew everyone had contributed. Okay. Everyone had done the homework. I knew that I was in a group of people who everybody was contributing, not maybe one or two in a group, but everybody. And
Yeah.
that felt so different. I don't know about you, but
Yeah,
I felt so much better doing that.
Okay.
And even though Sarah had read it out, I knew that everybody had done their bit.
Had
Does that make
contributed to it.
sense?
It wasn't just like
It wasn't just one person doing the work.
Yeah. Okay.
So that
Okay.
got much better for me. I don't know if we can make that, like, make sure that more people do more. Basically. Well, this is it, isn't it?
How do you do
Shout.
that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Shout.
no, but like,
Shout more.
you
Yeah.
have, like, I know for me,
Michael?
Yeah, personally, I did watch the video, but the thing is, I'm used to traditional way of teaching.
Okay.
So, and a number of us here are used to that, and
Okay.
some are transitioning from traditional way of teaching to. So, they're seeing the place of trying to pick and choose where they really, because
Okay.
yeah, I think that is the challenge with some people in the class.
Okay, so for some people it might not be that they haven't done the work, but that they're finding the approach and the group work
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah, because some 6 years of learning has always been, traditional,
Yes.
and then at the postgraduate level now,
Yes.
they're doing it differently. So maybe that's why some have not been able to engage with the,
Okay. Okay.
actively on people part.
Okay.
yeah, no, I do agree that there are going to be people that have had different experiences with education and how it's been presented and stuff. And I've always said that I will, if I understand it, whether I'd be happy to spend hours sitting and explaining it to people if they don't get it in that way or whatever, and I hope that others would do the same for me. I think my frustration last week was just when people were openly admitting that, oh no, I haven't done it so Lucy, if you just want to lead it, because I don't. Or, I'd say, okay, well, what do we know about this? And someone would go, I don't know anything about that intervention. And I'm like, how do you not know? Or they'd say, oh, well, why didn't you lead the conversation because you seem to know about it? I'm like, why don't you know about this? Because
Okay.
if you didn't understand it from the video, if I don't understand it from a video, I will then go and do my own research, I'll do reading on it, I'll do further studies. And yeah, we have got a heavy workload, and I do understand that people, like I said last week, I do understand people have got different commitments, but I've also got other commitments as well that I've got to stick to. And if I was able to do the assignment and do all the Pebble Pad work and then do further reading if I didn't understand the Pebble Pad work, I would expect at least the bare minimum from other people to try and engage in that conversation, or to say, this is what I understood, is that wrong, maybe someone could explain that further. Then I'd be happy to spend the whole lesson explaining.
Because there is something about how, so if that's an issue, if actually it's not that I haven't done the work, but it's more that I'm finding this quite difficult, that actually if there's a way of actually just being open and transparent about that, because what happens in groups is we are all analysing and making sense of what's going on. So for example, I had with the BA students a group member who has a disability and as is her choice, she has not chosen to share that disability with her group. Now what her disability means is she finds group discussion really, really difficult. She finds it really difficult when there's more than one person talking at once. That's really difficult for her. Now, whilst I can't force somebody to share whatever's going on for them, there is something about, well, actually, because in reality, other people will be making sense of why maybe you're quiet in the group. They might be thinking, oh, she's shy, she's quiet. They might be thinking she's lazy. Yeah, because we all make sense of what we're dealing with, don't we, in whatever way. So I said, I'm not saying that they think you're lazy. I'm saying that without knowing and understanding, and also they're not then able to make adjustments for you. So they're not able then to, to be careful in making sure they're taking turns to speak and what have you. So there is something about, actually, if you are finding it difficult, because it's a different way of learning, feel like you can be open about that so that people understand that's what it is and it's not that you haven't done the work. Because I guess what Lucy's saying is when people are explicit that I haven't done the work so therefore I want you to do it, that's where people will feel quite, frustrated. I don't know whose hand went up next, but he's like waving like this, so I will go with the big wave.
Yeah, actually, I don't have anything against group work. From my BSc, I've been doing it. Social work is my background study, so I've been doing group work. But what I want us to appreciate is that some of us might encounter some challenges within the week. Some might just fall sick.
Yes,
you understand? And
course.
that will make them not to be able to, you know, attend to some of
Yes.
the things we are doing. So
Yes.
when we appreciate people's challenges,
Yes.
then we will not be able to tack
Yes,
or let them.
but we can't appreciate people's challenges
Yeah.
unless we know about those challenges.
And
Now, for me, so I will be, you know, I'll be making judgments on all of you because I'm assessing you, right? But we do that all the time anyway, yeah? So what, in terms of making judgments, you're using all of the evidence. Now, if I know that every group, every week, that particular person comes, engages, turns up, and then there's a week where they haven't, I'm thinking, I'm guessing that person's had a difficult week, yeah? Now, if that's a pattern that I'm seeing week on week, that's something different, yeah? And that's something that I need to kind of try and understand a little bit more. But it's also about, actually, it's okay to say, look, like, all of this has happened, I haven't been able to do it this week. And I think probably people will be largely understanding and supportive of that. But when it becomes a pattern, that's where people maybe find that quite difficult. Angela.
Some of us had a conversation earlier, and we said that as a cohort, we're not particularly bonded. There's some groups of us that get on better than others. It does feel quite separated sometimes. So I find on the group activities, if it's people that I've got a relationship with, we all work and we know what to expect of each other. And then groups where I don't know them and they don't know me, we don't gel as well. And then it can put backs up, like we don't know what other people have got going on. In our learning group, stuff was going on, and we don't know. We make assumptions. We go, you know, fuck them, this and that. Actually, this person's got real shit going on.
Yeah.
And we have to be, you know, conscious of that.
Yes.
But then we also said that today's session was great because obviously the teacher wasn't there, so we were actually really bonded this morning. It was like, it was you know, normally we just come and listen. And the only times we work together as a group is when we have a task to do, and it's we've got this to do.
Yes.
Whereas today we just sat around and we're like,
We
you
didn't
know,
do
just
anything
having a
today.
chat.
It's interesting because one of the bits of feedback we had, and it might be because we are a very diverse group now, you know, and people do have, as Michael's saying, very different experiences of education, all of that, you know, culturally massive differences. And one of the bits of feedback that came out of one of the surveys, I think it was the early...
Is that why the walls like over?
Was, so there's loads of things on the, it's on the postgraduate experience survey. One of the things that we rated most badly on was sense of community. So it's interesting that you say that.
It's got a group bonding trip, guys.
It's I don't know, but that's something to think about. I'll go to James and I'll come back.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about challenges. Let's talk about strengths a little bit.
Oh, beautiful!
One of the things which I've noticed about communication and support each other.
Yes.
I've noticed that we do support each other a lot.
We do.
I've walked up a lot of times to Lizzie with some issues, and she's really been supportive.
Oh, thank you.
Not only Lizzie, a lot,
Others.
many others. So I think we are really supportive, and the WhatsApp group which we have, a lot of things are going. You don't know? You're not in the group, yeah? Are you? No.
I don't need any more group chats in my life.
So, in the group,
No one needs
that's where really the support really comes up.
Okay.
Yeah, when someone pops up a question there,
Yeah, if you ask a
It
question,
doesn't
you know
take-
it's going to get answered.
it doesn't take 5 minutes and someone is bringing up a suggestion to.
Okay.
So I think that alone
It's massive, yeah.
can go beyond all the challenges we're talking about this.
Thank you, James. Yeah. I guess it's that thing of that hopefully there is a sense of at least, like, I don't feel totally isolated. I can reach out and people will respond. So that's really, really nice. Yeah. So I mean, I mean, there's lots for me to think about whether, because the challenge that we have in terms of the courses, how much contact time we have with you and how much content we've got to fit in is a challenge. So I'd love to do much more at the beginning, but because there's so much in my module, it's really, really difficult to fit that time and that space into some of that stuff. But I'll think about that for next year. I suppose it's thinking of, sorry.
One thing that would maybe good is not put groups in on the second day, but maybe have that theatre group come in, because that was a great bonding experience.
Yeah.
That really brought out some fun sides of everybody.
Yeah.
People that don't normally talk talk to.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
have to be that, but like instead of icebreakers where, you know, I'm this person, this is, you know, but like actual like a real bond,
Activities that-
yeah, real bond,
Mm.
something that can just
Mm.
bond people in some way and have some
Mm.
kind of relationship before we then go,
Yes.
we don't know each other, but let's get together and.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I'm just trying to sum up in my thoughts of how maybe the main things of that have been an issue is, like you said, maybe communicate with people if there are things going on with people. Sorry guys, can't be here like I did this week, couldn't be here this morning, etc. etc. But also from my point of view, the expectation of some students and other students, oh, you've done the work, you can do this. I'm like, no, we should all be doing the work as much as we can, but definitely don't expect that of me just because you haven't done it.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think that really, I was
If
aware of that last week.
You rock up and I haven't done it, you're screwed
Yeah.
as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that really affected me a little bit last week. I was like, I wasn't terribly happy with that expectation. Why should I have done it just because you haven't, sort of thing.
Yes.
So people just be aware of that.
Yes.
But yeah, maybe just communicate saying, sorry guys, can't do this week, but I can help out with this next week, sort of thing. Yeah.
And I mean, so there's something. So the BA students have to write a reflective essay about their experience of group work. You guys, you know, can't give you any more work to do.
Please no.
But there is something actually about thinking about this in the context of working with groups of people, which you will all be doing as social workers, that if there's something, a source of frustration, try as best you can to tackle it and have a conversation about it. Yeah? You know, I've noticed this. Are you okay? Is there anything I can do? Or what's going on? Why have, you know, is there a reason why you're coming and you haven't done the work every week? So that you can try and understand the different perspectives. So yeah, I can't force everybody to do the work. What I would say for those people who have engaged with the work as you go throughout the module, I think it will pay dividends when you get out in practice, because there will be an expectation that you understand all of the core approaches in social work, not just the one you've written about in your essay. So, you know, much as it might be frustrating, you'll be... And there's also something about if you've supported other people to develop their knowledge, that can actually really help consolidate your own understanding as well. You know, so there is that. So don't lose sight of that. But yeah, what about what I need to do? Come on.
I'm going for a strength, don't
Oh.
panic.
It's all right. It's all right. I've braced myself, Angela.
I really appreciate the feedback every week on Pebble Pad.
Yeah. That's really good.
That sort of gives me like I've done a gold star. You know, it's like, do you do the work and it's like, do people actually see this? Like, it's like 3 or 4 hours of my life on doing the Pebble Pad. So I'm like, that tiny little bit of feedback, I'm like, she saw it.
I would love to give more feedback, and on that point, I did let you know that giving feedback on Pebble Pad is quite a big task, and so I have got some help. So this week, it is likely that you'll be getting some feedback from somebody else. Everyone has a different style in terms of feedback. So this person did feedback for the BAs last week. The BAs were a little bit negative about the feed. Some of the feed, not everybody. They felt that it was... Well, I guess it's again, as I said, because I can't check all of the feedback, because that's a big job, I just had to send the feedback about the initial contact task. I just had to post it because I can't check it. That's why I put at the start, just remember, feedback is a perception of you. It's not the truth. Yeah? So with any feedback, like I'll get feedback from you at the end of the module about what you thought of the module. Sometimes I get bad feedback. I know, shocking, but I do, and sometimes I don't. Yeah? Now, there are some pieces of feedback that I go, yeah, that's fair. You know, for whatever reason, I was busy, I didn't do that properly, whatever, I need to spend more time on that. There's some pieces of feedback where I'll go, well, okay, that's your perception, but it's not the truth, because actually, you know, you experienced in this way, but I know you've learned, or whatever. Yeah, so it is that about just recognising that someone's perception for you to think about. look at it critically and decide how much of that you take on board. That's the reflective process. So you might get some feedback from Rachel. The other thing just to say, the getting feedback on your recordings has been slightly more problematic. I've sent them to impact members. I did training with impact members over the summer to prepare them for doing it, and still I think some of them aren't clear on what I asked them to do for a whole range of reasons, probably because my training was not that great. I'm going to have to go through that feedback and make sure that it's all okay. So I will get that to you as soon as possible. Anything else? Anything in terms of... anything else in terms of what I need to do, what I need to do differently or more of?
You need to rest.
Do you know, Emmanuel, you're very perceptive. I do need a rest. But hey, Christmas is coming. Holidays are coming. Okay. Learning environment. So I guess this is about really as a group how safe we all feel. This is particularly important at the moment because you're moving into that simulation bit. So I'm aware you're doing it in pairs, okay? I just want to put it out there of think about your colleagues, you know, so there will be people in the room who maybe feel uncomfortable about you talking about what happened within that simulation outside of the simulation. So what do we think about that? Do we want to agree a blanket, don't talk about it? Or only talk about it positive? Like, what's reasonable?
As long as you're telling everyone I did amazing, it's fine.
As long as you're saying that Lucy did amazing, it's all okay. You know, because what I don't want is for people to go into those simulation practices and feel inhibited by the fact that somebody might be going out and talking about it with somebody else.
I mean, I'm all about feedback for me. So if for example, on the online one, there isn't a debrief, is there, I think. So for example, on Thursday, I'm assessing, if the recorder can let me know how I got on, just a private message.
So that's between the two people who've worked together.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're saying that's
Okay.
fine.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind if you tell someone else, tell someone else feedback which was meant to me. I wouldn't mind. But
So if you were doing your assessment and somebody was with you and then you walked into the canteen and they were talking to someone else going, oh, James did this was really good or whatever, you'd be okay with that?
I wouldn't mind. Okay. So long as the feedback you give, you're telling the third party is the same feedback you give.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it will be a problem.
If you hadn't heard it and you were hearing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll frown at it if you tell somebody something that you haven't told me.
Okay.
So
Okay.
be open to me. If I did very bad, say you were very bad. And go and meet Michael and say, Michael, that guy was
That
shit.
was really bad.
Yeah. I will appreciate it. But
Okay.
if you say, oh, no, you were right, then you meet Michael and say, that guy is messed up.
Yeah.
There I'll have a problem.
Yeah. Okay. What about other people? Joe?
I think it depends on the way that it's said, because I feel like if you're a recorder and then you're going to your mates and then saying it in like a judgmental way and kind of like laughing at people's experience or things like that, that's not really constructive for the person that actually did the assessment.
The assessment, yes.
That's not going to help them, and I feel like that's when it gets all like gossipy, and that's when people don't feel comfortable to then, you know.
Yeah,
do
to work with certain people or yeah. The key thing is that you feel comfortable and safe to go in and practice. That's the key thing, and you get some meaningful feedback. Keek?
Yeah, I think the principle behind the feedback thing was just physically for the individual who's for example, there was time when we had this experience that it had to be recorded. He said you're going to send this share to us personally and not to anyone else. So I think the principle behind the feedback is for the individual, not for any other person.
Okay.
It's a very good etiquette of practice that we can start learning it from here, that we give feedback directly to the person, not to any third party, to really help us with practice.
Okay.
Just my personal opinion.
Yeah. Nods?
Yeah. I agree. When I finished being a recorder, I didn't even want to go out and talk about anybody else. I gave my feedback and that was it. That was enough.
Okay. It does feel safer to me if we make that a ground rule.
Yeah.
Personally, then there's no quibbles, there's no was it positive, was it not positive. So whilst I know you're saying, okay, I'm okay with that as long as I've heard it, in some respects, you then, is it something I'm comfortable hearing again or not? I think it's easier just to say, actually, if you want to talk about it, you talk about it with the person you were doing that simulation with and nobody else. Yeah? Okay. I will add that in to here, you know.
Is that the same if you have interviewed somebody and you have concerns? Do you go directly say to you or to your recorder?
So somebody, an impact member that you've met, and so that you have concerns about them, come to me.
Right. Okay. You don't discuss it with you.
And you can. I guess if they were part of that discussion, it might be helpful just to get their perspective on it as well.
Yeah.
But if you had concerns, I'd appreciate you coming to me too. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Okay. Yeah. Good. Right. So, just as a heads up for anyone who hasn't clocked, we are in Sheila Scott tomorrow. Okay? So it's the other side of the entrance. Yeah? Opposite, little path round. Yes, but it's on this site. So we're there tomorrow, so it is a hospital-based scenario. That sent me into a thing last week, but it's all sorted now. And we are in SS007, so there are signs when you get in, but I'll be loitering around anyway. So, but if you could still come in those groups, okay. That's that. The last bit of information I just wanted to share with you is that come semester 2, you will have a new member of the group. Okay, for one module. Okay, so that will be the Human Growth and Development module. So, so somebody called Nadine will be joining you for that module. I met with her and she said she'd feel more comfortable with you knowing that she was going to be joining. And I said, you're very nice and you'll be very pleasant and look after her and all of that. So yes, it's just a heads up for that. So, back to what we're going to do this week, because we're going to start thinking about statutory social work in children and families. So, you should have, I did manage to delete a whole section.
Yes.
I know. I was in a very odd place.
I
was like, I'm sure there was a section there, and I tried to delete the recording section because I got that wrong, and then I deleted the wrong section. So I'm so sorry. I wasn't going to put it back up because I just thought that'll send So, but you hopefully have read the section of Working Together to Safeguard Children, and watched a presentation on working with involuntary service users as well. So we're going to think a little bit about Zainab and Jack. I need 4 groups, so sorry, could you two make your way onto another table, because I've only got 4 bundles of paperwork. So what I've got is various recordings of the initial assessment with Zainab and Jack. So again, like we did with Mary's, I'd like you to have a look at the different ones, and I'd like you to have conversations not about the case, but about the recording. Yeah? What do you like, what do you not like in terms of the recording? Some groups do it from one. So you've got more. Yeah. This is what was online, wasn't it? Yeah. Seems like a long time ago since you did this. There's loads of stuff on it, isn't there? Before the new. Yes.
Okay.
Why wait then?
You can start generally about children family
I think about Mary all the time. And every time I do an assessment or practice it, I'm saying Mary in my head. I'm like, I'm going to call the wrong person Mary.
just met Mary.
Which one?
Well,
This is for Zena, like, there's, as if we have to, because both adult assessment and then HIV. So there's Zena and there's Jack. For Zena, it's almost, yeah. For Zena, it's not bad. Except if they are critical points in the capture. Don't these before the update.
Yeah. I'm fed up.
She said she did not attend her class, but later called back and said, you know, extra information.
Yes, that is the one.
Which I mean to read, I didn't even know this one has been added now.
Yeah.
Another one will.
If you are looking at them based on message, then none of them are comprehensive.
Because I think you should look at it based on
that we have currently, because we've done this before this information came.
Yes, I should have said that. This is kind of going back, I guess. Yeah? Yeah.
you judge without what it is, what's it there now.
We're judging this based on the information the people had at the time they wrote this.
Yes, because you did that weeks ago, I think. Yeah. So the key thing, but in some respects, I don't want you to think about what's going on and all of that. I want you to think about the recording.
Okay.
Yeah?
All right.
So the recording practice, because you've got loads of different examples here. So what do you like? What do you, what's your view of what's recorded? Because actually what's different with this to the Mary one is you were all in the same room, so actually you all heard the same things, but they are recorded slightly differently. So yeah.
See, like you have seen that Jack Khan.
And this is the sign up.
This should be Jack.
Yeah.
His head, that's Jack. Yeah. So this one's has Zena. This one's has Jack.
It's like play the yellow card, isn't it? The yellow card.
Because we don't, as at the time you are doing Jack's assessment, you have never met Jack.
Yeah.
The things we know is that yes, from Zena. So it's mostly about
I know, I totally understand. Which is okay compared to this one, who is really talking about child.
Yes. So this is two different models. So this is early help assessment, that is family and children. This is early help assessment and family. This is of child. Two types of.
It's simple. Yes. Just that the two writers approach it differently.
Child centered.
You know, this early help assessment kids, the goal is what? For you to report the person. What are you worried about? If they say, what are you worried about? What you are worried about is pass around to them. What we are worried about is the mom. So it is almost appropriate for this person to be. What are you worried about? The person is talking about Zena's drug problem, which is it is give that suggestion he gave that day. Should Jack find any heroin in the house? There's a risk he might take it. So it's something you're worried about Jack, but it is a Zena's problem. So this one said, what are you worried about? The person is saying, tell me what Zena is worried about, not what you as a social worker is worried about. So if there's an evidence,
So the thing is,
you can look at this one.
this is what you are looking at. The risk, because he said in the other hand, child Sunday means you place child for
Yeah, I was hoping that the person was hoping that the
Yeah, they're supposed to. They're supposed to. Like this, they're supposed to.
and because it's all because it's for practice.
No, they're supposed to. Like this person. You're supposed to. Feel what? Like this form data. Name of child, date of birth, gender,
all the information has to be there.
address. She lives with her mom. So
It's not an anonymous person. It's a person who is not having an address. Person and gender who needs to be recognized as he or she is, isn't it? Is that what?
It is.
Yes.
We're assessing you.
Style of recording. Yes. That's what recording. You have to be the record. That's what Bill said.
Yeah, how we
How we record. And this and that one. Yeah. So we evaluate how which one is the right one. So for me, the one concentrated on Zainab and because
maybe not like the two ones that just wanted to get, but the questions and weaknesses of each one. Like that one again, I got James name. Like this was talking about what Zainab is worried about instead of what the social worker is worried about.
This is the thing because how do you approach? The approach, our approach means what we're going to rectify to make that
what needs to happen? What needs to happen around
What are these?
so the clips are
There were some other things this one captures. My social worker you know some other sides continue. It's not just that page. There were some other things. Subsequent pages. This would have been
But then people are going to be like, you're going to have to deal with people that need to have some kind of some people you'll say, how many people in there have got really good work? And then people will be like,
Same age group. John. Yes. So it's not just there's a learning group. Yeah. Yeah, there are two types. Yes. No, that's so. All these ones are the same. All these three are same. But just the outline. No, the frame is for the layout. These people use portrait, use landscape. No, that's all the difference. Yeah, that is why it is different. They wanted to create that, to just make us confused about how focused we are on things rather than layout matters. So we need to, when you look at, yeah, both are different. You already made that assumption. But in actual fact, there is only the layout is changed. So that is the kind of thing. When you are getting something for evaluation, how you approach first impression. I think this prior way of being. This thing was not meant for this. If you look at this, I'm sure it's it's not assessment, it's that one we usually write. So, which one is more reflective of the problem? You know, that's one thing we are thinking. He did a better recording. Kind of. These two now, because that one is not part of it.
I think the person might have included the wrong document.
No, but approach is good, but remember you need to put approach in there. Which approach you're going to take, you apply it.
My assessment, I'm sure they uploaded the wrong thing. Because of that use of
What you're telling the doctor, they could then say, you're telling you haven't had
What are you worried about? This headache. So you should be writing what is what you're worried about. That is based on the observation. That is fact. Based on the discussion you've had. What are you worried about? What Zena is worried about means so that first
this one is not. This says that it's what Zena is. It's what the social worker is about. Because if you read the first one.
Okay, shall we do a little bit of feedback about that? So in some respects we were going back in time a little bit. So this was the write-up from the initial assessment you did in class weeks ago. And what was different from the Mary one is you were all in the room together. So nobody had bits of the jigsaw that others didn't. But still the write-ups were slightly different. So just for everyone's benefit, for the groups I haven't talked to about this, so there was 3 that was on this form, which is Worcestershire County Council's advised format for anyone working with children and families. So it is underpinned by strengths-based practice. It is influenced by the signs of safety model, which is strengths-based. So what do people think? I've kind of talked to the 2 groups at the back a little bit about this form, but what did you guys have a discussion about this form? What were your thoughts about it?
okay, so one of the forms seem to be writing, instead of what are you worried about as a social worker, the report seems to be talking about what Zainab is worried about.
Yes.
Not what the social worker is worried about. So
yes. So, yeah. So if we think about the stages of assessment model, you're preparing, you're gathering data, which from that context was your interview with Zainab. But then you're analysing it, so you're making sense of that. So you should be applying your knowledge and understanding of potential risk of substance use, yeah? Yes. And you should also obviously remember the stuff about fact and opinion as well. So that the information you had at that stage was reported by Zainab. So Zainab stated that Jack wasn't in the room. You don't know that as a professional, so you need to make sure that you're not noting that as your opinion because you don't know it. This is what's stated. Yeah. So, sorry.
Do you know the quotations?
Yes.
I'm not a fan of the quotations.
You're not a fan?
I feel like them. I just don't like them. Instead of the quotations, when I'm doing I can mark states and stuff. Yes. Facts instead of the quotations.
Yes, it's. I mean, and some of it's a personal style thing. Sometimes I think quotations can be helpful, particularly if there's language in there that you wouldn't necessarily use, but is important for the person who's said it.
Yeah.
So, for example, I think in Mary's assessment, stepping up.
Yeah.
I think probably I think that's helpful because that was said a number of different times. Yeah. So if you translate it, you might get it. You might, yeah. So, but yeah, it's a kind of a personal style thing, I guess. Yeah. So there were obviously each of the learning groups did one, and there was an exemplar, which obviously looks the same as the other 2 that were done on this form, which is the one that talked about had the research in, I think. Yes. So Zainab reports having relapsed into heroin use over the last 6 months. Research shows that heroin can affect an individual's ability to parent. So I'm not saying that I know that right now, but we do know that from the research, so that's why I'm worried. So the form is quite prescriptive in that it's clearly trying to focus you on, okay, you've gathered this information, but what does that mean for Jack? Because that's your focus in terms of safeguarding children. But also, let's recognise what's going well, what are protective factors within the family as well. So it is quite prescriptive, but it does push you to write it in a way that focuses on, well, okay, that's some information, but actually what does it mean? It's sort of trying to push out more of that analysis bit, I suppose. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, Lizzie?
I was going to say, I quite like, I don't know which one it is, but one of them has, I think Michelle, short, simple sentences of facts, and I quite like that because I know I can waffle. So like, Zainab is currently unemployed, there's no opinion based, that's just a fact, etc., etc. And I think it's really quite helpful to have short, simple facts about my life.
Yes.
And that you can work with it, it doesn't complicate things, does that make sense?
Yes.
So I think it's quite good.
Yeah, yeah. So, so it'll be interesting when you go on shadowing to kind of, if you can, have a look at any rough records to see what the culture and the practice is in the agencies that you're in, because there'll be different expectations, I think, and cultures around it.
I did shadow on Friday, and the guy showed me, we were both from a former police background.
Oh, interesting,
and we're
okay.
very much about facts and not opinion, and if it is opinion, make sure you've made that very clear, that it's your opinion for whatever reason.
Yes.
So facts are a big thing from both our backgrounds.
Well, facts are really important, but you absolutely need to be forming opinions.
Yeah.
But it's about
Because of those facts.
what's the basis
Yeah.
on which. Yeah.
So we were discussing how important that is.
Yeah,
and so
yeah,
make sure that you have these facts, make sure they are facts,
Yes.
and you're justifying whatever you do based on those facts.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yes,
That was
absolutely.
really useful to me.
Good. Okay. Are there any other comments about the records? So, I thought I would just remind everyone, I don't know if you can, of this. Does anyone remember this? It's a long time ago. This was the, well, there's different way, I call it the kit model. So this is a model about how to use theory in practice. Okay, so this is your service user profile or kit. So, you know, what we know about Zainab. And then the theory goes in there outside. Can anyone remember, or find, I suppose, if Michelle's doing that.
Do you remember what week we did this?
I think it was like week 2. I think it was like week 2. So there was 2. So in terms of how you can use theory to inform your practice, can anyone remember?
Here we go. I've got it right.
She's got it right there.
Because I even rewrote it with colour.
Did you? Beautiful.
That's how sad my
Beautiful,
life
but it
is.
still hasn't gone in for everyone.
But I
yeah,
still need to
which is
check
fine.
it. Yeah, so
Fine.
that was a waste of time.
So this side, theory. God, I can't even remember the language. Remind me. Theory to inform. Theory to inform. Thank you. And theory to
intervene.
That's it. Okay. So, what theories might help us understand and analyse Zainab and Jack's situation? Beautiful.
Intersectionality.
Oh, and I haven't even really taught that before.
The presentation we had to do was in there.
Ah, nice. Okay. Well, that's interactionality. That's not right. You know what I mean. Intersectionality. There you are. It's close.
That trans...
Theoretical.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Change model.
Cycle of change.
Yeah. That one.
Yeah? I mean, you all last week were able to make sense of where you think Zainab might be. Yeah? Yeah, good. You're confused?
Yeah, because cycle lot of changes, the approach, intersectionality is sociological theories.
Some theories, some approach theories will help inform both your understanding of the person's situation and they might inform your approach as well, okay? But some sit very neatly in this section, okay? So intersectionality will help you understand Zainab's situation and what she's facing. So how, being a female of a certain age from a particular background, how those things have informed her experience of power and powerlessness, for example, yeah? They don't necessarily give you a guide to what you should do, but they help you to understand what Zainab might be experiencing. So that's this side, yeah? Theories to help us make sense of Zainab's situation and Jack's situation. Yeah? Was there a hand over there? No. There'll be a lot of stuff you haven't learned yet. So that's okay.
That's helpful.
It's not necessarily
It'll
like
come.
a theory, but like an approach to
Yeah.
it. So like an eco map or a genogram to
Yes.
better understand. and
Yes,
write it.
yes. So the theory would be systems.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah?
And then,
But it's a tool that helps you employ a systemic approach, yeah? Good? Yeah? What else might you use to inform your understanding or your analysis as part of the assessment process? Yeah. Strengths-based.
Problem.
Strengths here.
Evidence-based.
CBT. So, strengths can be in both. CBT, certainly in there. If you were adopting an approach, if you were adopting CBT as your intervention, then you would be employing theories around like cognitive theory, behavioural theory, yeah, to understand behaviourally how Zainab has developed a drug problem or struggled to remain drug-free or whatever. Yeah.
Would you be looking at like things like feminism and potentially racism? Hopefully she's not affected by it, but it's something.
Yeah, I mean, in some respects that all comes into this bit. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. Oh.
Confuse you.
I don't think anyone would get that. Sorry, that's a cultural reference that most people in the room won't get. I'm losing any cultural references that people have. Yeah.
Emu.
There'll be we've talked about the levels of need. It's not a theory, but it will inform your analysis, won't it? Where Jack is on those levels of need. We thought he was at 2 or 3, I think, didn't we, when we talked about it in class? Yeah.
I'm not sure, but conflict.
Conflict. Yes, conflict theory. Yeah. There'll be all sorts of theories that you will learn about next semester. So theories around human growth and development. Yeah, so theories around the life course, yeah. So attachment, yeah. Theories around child development. You would be using those to understand what's going on for Zainab and for Jack and what that might mean. Okay, so there'll be others, but gets you kind of thinking about how you can use, and this is, I guess, Dimson, this is the thing about you're using all of that to make sense of the information that you get and recording that. So in terms of intervention, so we've got CBT here, we've also got strengths-based, that you might use strengths-based as part of your assessment, but you might also use that to build and develop strengths with Zainab and within her system. Yeah, systems potentially can go across as well.
Would you have the motivational model in there or not?
So motivational interviewing is an approach to intervention.
said that it goes into, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's a technique for working with people, isn't it? Yeah. So in some respects, that's where the cycle of change and motivational interviewing go together quite well, because the cycle of change helps you to understand where somebody is in that process. And if they are particularly in pre-contemplation or contemplation stage, then motivational interviewing is an approach that can be beneficial. Yeah? So I like the cycle of change, but obviously it's not my area really. But and it's simple, which always I like. So thinking about where Zainab was when so we talked about levels of need. We made a judgment about kind of level 2, level 3 potentially in terms of those levels of need. So what might the plan be? What do you think it might be a helpful plan or an approach for Zainab? Yeah. What might she need? What might be helpful, do you think? So she's motivated. She wanted treatment.
She said she struggles actually with it.
Yeah. So that's interesting, isn't it? That so I think certainly some of the assessments reflected one of the worries is that her and Jack are quite isolated.
Yeah, but then she struggles, so it's...
Yeah. So what do we think about that, about recommending group work?
She struggles, doesn't she?
She might not do it.
Yeah.
Mm.
But she's isolated, so it's where do you find that middle ground?
Yeah, and actually...
your relationship with her as well. Like if you've worked with her for a long time, she trusts you, and you know what kind of groups there are, and you know the dynamic of the group and whether she would gel. If it's just a cold call and you'll just go to group work, it's a very different thing.
But actually, is there some preparatory work that could be done? If we think that actually a group work programme might have benefit because she's socially isolated and maybe struggles to make connections, there's a suggestion actually that group work would be ideal because that enables you to develop some of those social skills, doesn't it, within a group work programme? But you have to recognise actually that might be something that we need to work towards. Yeah.
I think Jack might be the key to helping her to change things, because that's her motivation, I guess, isn't it? To be a good mum, to stop drugs, and I think she might want to find some friends who are potentially in a similar situation. Yeah. And
all the friends at the minute are drug users, aren't they?
Yeah.
She's engaging well with that group though.
Yes.
I don't know what it's called. I feel like I've read all the stuff you've done, so also it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore.
Again, it's kind of coming off the charms thing, which she might benefit from a referral to Cranston to look at. Taking her off.
Very
It's just an idea off the top of my head.
Yeah. So, well, actually, that was what she was saying quite explicitly. This is what I think I need. So, it might, so a referral to Cranston for some substitute prescribings. Yes. So that's what happened, isn't it? Let's move on. So, hopefully, some of you clearly have engaged with the information I frantically put on Charms last week when I realised I hadn't done it, and updated yourselves on the case. Okay, so she's been referred to Cranston. What else do we know about what's happening with Zainab now?
She's coping very well. She's
coping very well.
Yeah, she had a review in 3 months.
Okay, so there was a review that things seem to be going quite well.
She's drug free as well, isn't she?
She's heroin free, but she is obviously on methadone. Yeah. And so?
The nursery reported that, well, she's consented to speak to nursery but not to mention the drugs.
Yes.
So they've said that Mum and Jack are both appear well.
Yes, so nursery have no concerns about either Zainab or Jack, yeah?
She did miss her meeting, her assessment with, was it the family support worker?
She missed her appointment with family support, didn't she? Yes.
Yeah, she was,
she's
at the shop.
She's at the shop.
Time of her life.
Yeah.
She's now in good relationship with Mary. Yeah,
the relationship with Mary has improved. Okay, yeah, yeah. So, So do me EastEnders. So in terms of that information, so she's missed an appointment, or was it 2 appointments?
2 appointments missed.
There's an home visit that's been arranged.
Pardon?
3 weeks.
Yes. So she's missed 2 appointments with a family support worker, but none with the drug service. Yeah?
No.
And Jack's still going to nursery. Okay? So based on, if we remember about assessment, we'll have done our assessment form, we've written it up, we've got our plan that we've implemented and reviewed, but assessment is an ongoing, continuous process. So you've got this new information in. Do you think that changes your approach? What do you think? Oh, James.
I was thinking.
You weren't thinking that. What other people think? So what do you think?
We need to carry on reviewing, check the progress. Yeah.
Okay, so carry on reviewing, but in terms of those levels of need, we any more concerned than we were previously?
No, for me, it's dropped, so
Okay.
before it was like I was thinking more child in need.
Okay.
But now, the one below, I can't remember off the top of my head, but below that,
Yeah.
just continue to
Early
empower
help,
her,
coordinated early help plan.
support her, just monitoring basically.
Okay,
See
yes.
if there's anything else that she needs.
Okay, yes. Angela?
The fact she hasn't engaged with the family support thing, though, that I wouldn't be dropping anything until family, that she's had that appointment and they can see
Yes.
why what's been going on, why she hasn't attended. Is it just
It might be
what?
she doesn't like you.
Yeah. Very much so.
Yeah.
Might be you've got a rubbish plan. Well, it could be. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? There's a reality. There's a reality to that. So exploring like what that's about, or she's just gone to the shops and missed the appointment, or something else.
I was just going to go back off that. I work with a family who don't like their family support worker, and they're thriving, they're fine, but they're being held back on still on child protection because they're not engaging with the family support worker.
Yes. Yeah.
We're all kind of like they're doing what they're supposed to be doing,
Yeah.
so I don't see the issue.
Yes.
The
Yes.
social worker don't see the issue.
Yes.
It's kind of like they need to do the work of the family support worker, but they don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because to me, the focus should be on the behavioural indicators, yeah? Not, yeah. So, if, you know, and this is where, you know, we'll come to it in terms of the presentation, being very, very clear with people about what's the criteria for success. What do we expect to see from you? And, like, part of me thinks, like, actually, like, there's always going to be people we don't like. Can't she have a different family support worker? You know, and maybe that, or maybe she doesn't need that to achieve the outcomes that she needs. Yeah. Okay, so I am going to move things on a little bit. I know, I do apologise. We're all feeling very positive. So, let's move forward a couple of weeks. Okay? And the drug service, so she's still attending the drug service. So the key worker at Cranston contacts you to say, we've heard that Zainab is in a relationship with somebody who accesses the drug service. Tony McMahon. Got a name and everything. No, because I haven't put it on.
It sounds dangerous.
It sounds dangerous.
Yeah.
Tony McMahon. So he's a known drug user who accesses their service. Okay. But she's still attending drug treatment. Jack's still going to nursery. What do we think? I phoned you up and told you that piece of information. Sorry?
How have you found out about this? It's saying I've told us if we found out.
No, we found out
So she's headed as well.
on the great. Well, the drug service have heard that she's in a relationship. That hasn't come from Zainab or from Tony McMahon, but they've heard from other people accessing the service, and they're concerned about it because of what they know about Tony McMahon. Yeah. So, no, I'm not saying you. I'm saying you. So what do you do with that? Yeah, there you are. Look, support services.
You know, in relation to that's the child protection document. I can't remember the name of it.
Working together.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was that emphasis in flexibility in changing, like they understand the fact that new information can change everything.
Yes.
So whatever opinion you had before, you can change it, and there's no problems.
Absolutely.
I really liked that about the
Yeah,
document.
of course. So this idea of continuous assessment, because what we know from some failings in child protection is a judgment has been formed, sometimes quite early on, and people, in spite of various information coming in that might contradict that initial judgment, there is a risk that people stick with that because I formed my judgment, I don't want to revisit it, I've got my plan and that's what's happening. But actually the guidance is quite clear, and so if we think about the working together to safeguard children guidance is statutory guidance, it's law, yeah, it's not the law, but legally you have to follow the statutory guidance.
You have to be assessed,
Yeah?
don't you, if there's anything new.
You have to be open to continuous assessment, yeah? We also have, do you remember you looked at the Worcestershire's, yeah? So again, if you read this, you've got at the back, is it still there? Or have they amended it? Early help pathway, it used to have the stepping up and stepping down process. I don't know whether it has it anymore. No, it doesn't. So there's an acknowledgement that through our course of contact with people, we might make an initial judgment that actually it's level 2, but actually we might have to step it up, or we might have to step it back down if we then get indicators that things are better than we maybe anticipated they were. So what do we think? So if we go back to that guidance, yeah, because that, if you're thinking about Worcestershire support services, you have to be responsible for assessing risk to children. So you would have to consider whether new information moved it up in terms of that guidance. So what do we think based on that phone call from Cranston?
Well, it potentially is a bigger risk to Jack now, isn't it? Someone else potentially in the house.
Yes.
Zainab may be more exposed,
Yes.
influenced, might be more accessible.
Yes.
They might, this attorney might go into the property.
Yes.
I want to know more about
which exposes.
So we know.
But we don't actually know. We've just heard it on the grapevine.
Yes.
So we don't know.
Yes, that's actually happening. Yeah.
Because
we move
around
around.
communication.
And we did much of that.
Pardon?
You're gonna have to you're gonna have to communicate with Zainab to actually.
You're going to have to ask her. You're going to have to ask her. Yeah.
And if she says yes, that's when you can go into.
Yes. So you have to get a basis on which this information, whether it's fact or not. Now, at the moment, Zainab's not really engaging with you as a family support worker. So what would you do?
What's your supervisor?
You would go to your supervisor, yes.
But she engages with Cranston.
She engages with Cranston. So you would have to work, and again, working across disciplinary, you would advise that Cranston, it's your hand, I don't know whether you...
That's what I was about to say, that there are various means of,
Yes.
I don't know, doing investigation, of collecting facts, information here and there.
Yes.
So Zainab, she's not isolated.
No.
Yeah, so
No.
we've got she's involved in other support aspects where we can have access and get appropriate information with regards to that.
Absolutely. So we've already Zainab having missed appointments, contact a nursery. Okay, there's a bit of reassurance. Jack's still going to nursery. She's also attending appointments at Cranston. We know she'll go there because there is a big incentive. There is a subscription.
Because he's there as well.
Pardon?
Is she getting there more so because he's there as well? I need to know these things, Jenny.
Right, well, let's move it on, right? So, Cranston, so you agree with Cranston, like, when she next in, you're going to ask her about, is she in this relationship? So, 5 days later, she has an appointment with Cranston. She's pregnant.
Oh, damn!
So everyone, I know that's like, there's like a ripple around the room at that. Let's come back. Stephanie's hand shot up. I'm desperate to see.
Do we use this new information now for the assignments?
You can, yeah. It depends. When you have your tutorial, we can talk about it. But let's do the task at hand. Okay, back to the room, everyone. Lots of talking. Let's go back. So, don't worry about the assignment quite yet. We're just worrying about what we do about Zainab.
Is it definitely Tony's?
Well, Zainab has said it's Tony's. She's admitted she's in a relationship with Tony, and she's pregnant.
Okay. Now you actually have to assess the risks, because if he's using, so I'm trying to think about the experiences I've been going through, like who I've worked with. You've got to do like the risks around the unborn child.
Yes.
Because if he's using or she's using, it's going to impact the unborn child. And now the risks with Tony and Jack as well.
Yes.
So there's going to be a lot.
Do you want to go?
I'll come back.
Okay.
I'll come back.
I was going to say, obviously there are a lot of risks to consider and stuff, but also her pregnancy with Jack was the big motivator that stopped her using last time. So,
well, no, there is
that is what made her completely stop last time.
Yes.
Because she did not want to be pregnant whilst using drugs. So this might almost, at the moment she's sort of happy sitting where she's with the methadone, but this might really speed her up to her, I need to get off this, but I'm going to have this baby.
Although
it might not.
Well, it might not.
Can she take that while she's pregnant, the methadone then, or not?
Yes, in fact, it would be advised that she continued to use methadone whilst pregnant, because suddenly, actually, what her dad did, potentially quite risky to an unborn child, yeah? So actually the advice would be that yes, great, stay in treatment, yeah.
I also think it would be wise of us to not to be judgmental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have to make judgments.
Yeah.
But ultimately we still need to have an effective relationship with her, don't we?
That's it. That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Given that, even though she's in a relationship with someone who is also in drugs, I think both of them are trying to get off drugs.
Well, we don't know that. We know that Zainab was motivated and is in treatment. We don't know. Yeah?
No, I don't like Tony.
You've got an issue with Tony.
Is there information about Tony at this point?
So all we, well, we'll come on to this. We'll come on to this. Sorry, Dixon.
I have a question. I want to take a step backwards. You mentioned that before we change the level for Jack, we need to talk to Zainab to have basis for that. Are there situations where it is permissible to doubt the person, even based on what she said? If she said, no, I don't take it again, but you know, love is there, she's now blind, she and Tony may take it. She must start lying.
Yeah, of course.
So is there appropriate to, like, even if she said she's not taking it, for a social worker to doubt her
yes,
and act
of course, you have to have a critical eye. So the thing is, so if you think about it on the basis of evidence and trying to establish fact, there is this idea of triangulation, yeah? So you're using all of the information available to you. The reality is with drug use, you're unlikely to really ever know for certain exactly. You could drug test, but that would be a point in time. And, you know, so you're gathering all that information. So if someone's saying to you, oh, no, I'm not using, I'm sticking to my prescription, and yet you then find out that they haven't picked their prescription up for a day, you kind of know if a heroin addict doesn't pick up their prescription, they're going to be either very unwell, which would question whether she'd be okay to look after Jack, or she's using something else. You know, so you use that information to make the best judgments you can.
Yeah, there's a question. I was going to ask, where does an agreement come into play now? Agreement between yourself and Zainab? Yeah, because remember there was documentary you shared with us where this family, his 8 kids were removed from him because of
yeah.
And then there was an agreement between the social worker.
Yes,
and
we'll come on to that. Okay, so based on her now being pregnant, what would be the action? So we're thinking about, at the moment, you're still based within Worcestershire Support Services, working collaboratively with Cranston. What would the judgment be at this stage? So we go back to our level of need.
Reassessing now.
Yeah?
Risk and recur has gone up, isn't it?
Okay. So what does that mean?
Means we have to review.
Means
review the case. Yeah.
we review the case, yeah?
So you have to like assess again.
Yes, yes. But you don't have to re-go over a lot of the stuff you've already got, do you? You're adding the new information.
Going back to the data collection process again.
Yeah, you gather additional data. Yeah. So you would gather information from Cranston about what you know about Tony. Obviously, he accesses their service as well.
You have to speak to Tony. I need to meet Tony.
Well, it's thinking about what your role is within Worcestershire Sports Services. Yeah. But let's start with this, okay? So we were saying previously, you know, she was motivated, that we were thinking level 2 or level 3. So where do we think it is now? So if we're thinking about level 2 is may need some extra help. Level 3 is may need further help. There needs to be work with other agencies, but we're still in the context of early help.
Do you think it would go higher because of the risk to the baby?
Yeah.
Young baby, so the addiction is baby addicted.
Yes.
Blah, blah, blah.
Well, and actually, even if she wasn't pregnant, if she disclosed that she was in a new relationship with somebody with a significant dependence, that would be creating, as Michelle was saying, that would be creating concern, because what we know is that quite often children are at risk of significant harm when there is a new partner in someone's life.
Yeah.
Not saying that under all circumstances, but
it's like a safeguard.
it's checking. There would have to be a process of checking out what do we know about Tony, and what we know so far is the drug service are obviously concerned enough to have made that initial phone call. We think she'd want to find out a little bit more about that. What do we know? He's also another drug user, and now they're pregnant. Okay, so.
So it's a level that was talk about domestic
concerns. So do you remember all of those? There's all of those little pointers that talks about the things that would potentially be features of things at different levels. So the judgment is that at this stage, with this new information, that this warrants a referral to social care. Yeah, so this warrants a referral to the local authority. Okay. So that happens, and so I'd now like you on your tables to have a conversation from the perspective of the social worker picking up the referral. Yeah. So, having referred Zainab and Jack in, they will have all of the information that you've gathered, but they will then be gathering more information. Yeah. So have a chat about, from the perspective of the social worker picking up the referral, what would need to happen? Yeah. What would the process be? What skills and knowledge and values would you be bringing to bear on the case? Okay, and I'll come round.
Jenny, is that the start of the discussion?
Sorry?
Is that the start of the discussion?
What we are, I don't believe in the most important because so what change that's going to bring to Zainab's parenting very much. So our attention is going to be focused in between on isn't it?
She's pregnant.
And no, her mentors are drug users. The friends, they are also drug users at this stage. So what we are looking at Tony.
He didn't mention to me. That's what was assessing. Probably have additional.
No, we don't know.
When did you mention? Because I mentioned something about the met at crime.
No. No, they had been elected to the Constance. Constance have this information from Zainab, like she is in a relation to the family.
Using the services of current consultant.
But it's just, I don't understand it. I didn't see that.
That's why I raised the point.
But when she was asked, we didn't say that. But no, we are not doing assessment. You have to use
in assessment, yes.
You have to use professional
but beyond in data collection.
That's what I've been saying.
Around that new information.
You have to assess the risk. That's what I've been saying to listen about, So the risk indicator is one. Accessing. Yeah, so we don't know about that.
Then there's hope.
Yeah, that's the next stage of information. So that is we don't know.
The meeting, I don't think is necessary now.
We don't know that information. James, that is our duty now. Ask us what to find out where did they meet, what was the risk involved with that, because that's what I've been saying. So now Zainab's concentration is divided in between Chak and Dhoni. So up to now, until now, Zainab's focus and motivation was Chak only. So now that's shifted to Dhoni. Now the risk of being left alone or left out, emotionally, physically, professionally, so there is going to be lag because of this, because if you have a friend, you're going to spend the time with. So who is going to be considered either Mary or the network anniversary. And then she is going to have a relationship with active. So what is it? Knowledge is this information we have. Skills how we extract information. Skills to extract that information. Values. So what we
So we've also looked at where we can put skills, applications, what information do we need to know?
knowledge is the theory.
These theories, the various
Do you know where I can get that?
So let's say
I know it's on Pebble Pad.
I think it's Pebble Pad.
It's on Pebble Pad, but maybe each week.
No, it's on time.
What's the
Get what
Yes, that's right. It should be specific to this case.
Values what is involved in that point.
Strength base.
Under values.
Because Worcestershire works on strength base. That's so strength base is what we use as in terms of the knowledge. It's not skills. No.
If you just have it that way, but it's just not there. You just want to be like
Your values. What will be looking at now?
Values is what is involved. Like,
So
what is my value?
we
What is
start
important?
looking at we won't talk about values. I'm looking at the fact if she's family oriented, this kind of assessment. If she's more family, like for instance, maybe that said she wants
In a single form, or Zainab, or Jack,
they were no
isn't
different
it?
yesterday when they were
So that should be the one, right? Just perspective, what we want, right? In Zainab, what we want. She will be now, that's why I said about the shifting these two areas, because Jack is important, now Tony is important.
then
What is it? Is that the right direction?
yeah, what is the process?
Yeah, so it's like so to protect now Zainab got like two motivational points, isn't it? Keep relationship and keep parenting.
Let me use the word open.
Open-ended is open-ended. There's no answer needed. No. No, then it is not open. Open-ended is open-ended question means you are not expecting any definite answer from somebody. That's what like so like when they use this approach.
What kind of question? That's the process.
Yeah.
How do you assess or
Yes.
to me?
You know, I don't understand. The process, is it the process of getting these things done?
Okay, let's do a little bit of feedback, see how people are getting on thinking that through. So you've now swapped and jumped ship from the Worcester Support Services to the local authority. Different places call it different things, but it's in Worcestershire it would be Family Front Door, so that's the initial referral and assessment teams that would come in. So what would you be thinking about and doing, do you think? Sorry?
I'd be thinking at this point whether the child is likely to suffer or is suffering physical harm.
Yes. So, and you will learn much more about that through when you're doing the law module. But the key thing is Jack either currently at risk or will be at risk of significant harm. Yeah? So there's very prescriptive timescales around that as well. Yeah? So if we go back to the reading that you did in terms of working together, it's quite clear and prescriptive about what needs to happen in terms of timescales for those assessments. Yeah.
Yeah, we were saying that we would want to do an initial assessment with Zainab if possible, and then look at a multidisciplinary.
So your initial
Meeting, like,
assessment would be an initial assessment of Jack and the unborn
Yes,
child.
sorry,
Yeah? So it would involve Zainab, but
Yeah.
it would involve a lot more than just
Yeah.
Zainab as well. Was there a hand at the back?
Yeah, we was kind of just looking at the background for Tony as well.
Yes.
So looking at the background of Tony's his family possibly, the
Yes.
drugs. We was looking at a bit about Clare's law, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
To see what we can like push out.
So just for context, sorry, Clare's law is about if there is a history of domestic abuse, that a woman can be advised that actually the person she's in a relationship with has a history of violence so that they can make informed choices. So yeah, so it would be meeting with Zainab, but it would absolutely, once you're getting to that level, checking the system for any information about Tony McMahon.
We have a multidisciplinary meeting at this point where we get.
What would you have, Sherry?
We'd have a multidisciplinary meeting.
And then
You'd have a strategy. You'd have a strategy meeting.
Well,
Okay.
they're very involved.
Yeah. So that section of the working together guidance again is quite prescriptive about the process. So a strategy meeting would be held. That is a meeting that does not involve Zainab. It's a professionals meeting and it's an information sharing meeting. So the key partners of a strategy meeting are the local authority, social work, health, police, education. Those are the key partners. Now it would probably, or it should be the case that the family support worker from Worcestershire Support Services would be part of that process as well. Has anyone experienced a strategy meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. So what was your experience of those meetings? Suzanne?
I feel like it's a lot of information to take in.
Yes.
You're also seen as sort of the person, well, from my experiences, nursery is seen as like at the bottom, they only want the input from how he is there. Everything else, it's like they all just discuss with each other, and then okay, nursery's input, that was it.
Who's they?
So the social worker, we had housing, family support worker, police. They always using all these big words and all these crazy like terminology.
Yes.
And I'm just sitting there. I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna nod my head.
Yeah. So all of that stuff that we kind of talked about group process and group dynamics, will be played out in those forums. Yeah. That there can feel, and again, part of it is about who does it, who chair, all of that, like how they manage the process. I mean, I don't know. Was that your?
So actually, mine was probably opposite.
Interesting.
Even though, so as a manager in a school, actually we were quite respected in the fact that we see these families every single day. We know about attendance. Are they late? How often do they come?
Yes.
Are they dishevelled? What's mum doing?
Yes.
Is stepdad or Tony dropping off? Or,
Yes.
And we would actually
Yes.
have, like, the social worker who possibly we meet any, sort of now and then and sees the family once every 6 weeks. But actually we would have a lot of info from a just observation point of
Levels of
injuries,
contact.
they've got
Yeah, of course.
because we're there all day, every
course.
day, and
Yes. Yes.
can sort of have a look at, as I said, the attendance and stuff. Or I think for me, who was the mental health lead, would work with these kids every day. And maybe not at Jack's age, I worked with sort of 9 to 13, but actually the info they give you is very important in a strat meeting to then say, actually, little Johnny has told me that there are drugs in the house or this and that. And
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
Really
I mean, I've been in a strat meeting and, you started off, shared a bit of information and kind of, I'm not sure where it's at. And then I remember the police sharing the, what's it, PNC or something? I don't know. Yeah. Which is just the data, everything.
It's like a different language, basically.
Yes, everything on the system. And it very quickly changed the perception of risk. Yeah. So because it's that whole idea of putting all of the pieces of the jigsaw together. Yeah. So that's what that forum is about. So I remember feeling a bit uncomfortable that this is a professionals meeting. So it was very different in terms of how it felt to be part of that to other meetings, that we'll go on to talk about. But yeah, so there would be a strategy meeting. where everybody, and that would really inform the judgment of, do we think at this point in time we need to do a full core assessment because we're really concerned. So, the police share a very extensive criminal history for Tony McMahon, okay? He has had a very long history of violent offences, drug-related offences and drug supply offences over quite a long period of time.
He's supplies.
He supplies this, yes.
It's like it's safe now, but I'm, oh God, it's
Well, I mean, you know, can I just say reality check in terms of supply? I think lots of people will have perceptions about what that means. A lot of drug users supply to fund their own drug use. It doesn't mean that he's there with big wads of cash, like, you know, but that's on his record, so we have to,
So it was drug use, drug supply and...
drug use, drug supply and violent offences against women.
Oh, Tony.
Yes. And...
Gosh, there's more.
And the social worker can check, obviously, their systems, and Tony was in a relationship with somebody else with a child and was considered to be a significant risk within that relationship. Yeah? Okay. So all of that information is shared at that strategy meeting, and unsurprisingly leads to a Section 47 investigation, okay? Yeah?
She's vulnerable.
Just to say, the other bit that Sarah Chukwu picked up is the importance at this stage of getting the voice of Jack. Yeah? So there would be an expectation very early on that the social worker makes arrangements to see Jack. And we had a conversation about where would you do that? Would it be at home? Would it be at the nursery? And then there's all of that thing about she doesn't want nursery to know, but actually that might be the best place to get, you know, to get the information from Jack away from the home environment. So those will all be judgments that you'll be making. Okay, was there anything else that you talked about in your groups about what would happen at that stage, or you know, what skills, knowledge, and values? So we've talked about the process in terms of working together to safeguard children. What does it mean for you as a social worker working with Zainab and Jack? How will it be different to...
It's going to be conflict now, it's not going to be this nice little things anymore.
Well, there's a reality there, isn't there, about you're now working
at a different level.
You're working explicitly with authority.
And it's non-voluntary.
It may be an involuntary.
It's non-voluntary. Thank you very much, Lucy. She's like putting it all together.
I'd love you to go and check it. It's non-voluntary.
Yes. Just a sec, guys. Sorry, lots of conversations going on. Yeah, so working with involuntary. Yeah. Yeah. So, so what did people pick up from that presentation that you might need to think about if you are that social worker picking up? What?
Kind of like empathy is not
Enough.
yet. You're gonna.
But it's still important.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily enough on its own. Yeah. Yeah.
Self-reflection, I don't know if it will come in here.
Self-reflection always comes in. Always.
And then that's where your skills should be put to test.
Yes. Yeah.
Being open with the user and saying that actually now that we're at this level, you know, we'll try and meet your wants and needs, but these are the things that we have to cover. These are the legal obligations that we have at the end of the day. We will be putting these things first. And we want to work with you as much as possible. We'll try and do this with you, and this is how and I lay out how the process is going to work and who's going to be involved and things like that. But make it clear to them that at the end of the day that these are the things that we're going to have to do. It is non-negotiable. Yes. These are the things we can negotiate about how it's done, where it's done, things like that. Yes. But these are the things that these are going to happen. Yes. Kind of thing.
Yes.
and have that open
Yeah.
conversation.
But I think following on those, and this is where the skills of being diplomatic come in, because you don't want to go in and be
all kinds of
this,
things.
and then they're just heavily
Yes.
resistant. But you do have to get the actual points across. But I think it's that fine line of being diplomatic, of maybe how you present
Explore
the
why
next
they're
steps,
resistant.
Yes.
while showing that empathy, but also
So there is this. So there was a model within the presentation developed by Harry Ferguson, a conceptual model that can help if you're working in. I mean, that model was specifically developed from his research around child protection practice. But a key part of that is enabling the expression of how it feels. Yeah. Yeah, so yes, you absolutely have to do that. Be very, very clear about the mandate, why you're there, what needs to happen. But actually recognising this must be really, really hard.
Yeah.
And I guess you might feel cross or sad or upset, and I'll spend some time listening to that and hearing that.
Could it be as simple as saying, this is what's going to happen next? How do you feel about that? Let's explore this a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even, noticing things that indicate resistance. Yeah. Yeah. So they may not volunteer it. You may ask it. You still might not get something. But I notice that this has happened when we've started talking about what's going on with Jack or your relationship with Tony. Can we talk a little bit more about that? How it feels for you? Some of those sorts of things. The self-reflection is important. It's particularly what Ferguson talked about was about reflection about your relationship with authority and your experience of authority. We will all have different experiences and relationships with authority. Some of us might, I know people come into social work training because actually I feel like I want to have some authority, some power to influence change, that's quite often why people come into it. For me, I really was reluctant to have any sort of authority, because I felt like actually I want to work in a person-centred way and I want to support people's right to self-determination and all of that. So for me, suddenly being in the role of authority was really, really challenging. So we will all have our own experience of that. So that's where self-reflection around that's really helpful.
Yeah, what's the interplay now between the local council and the Worcestershire
support services?
Yeah.
So in terms of the process would be, you would have your strategy meeting, you would decide whether you believe that Jack was at risk of significant harm. So we're all agreed, yes, we do. The next part of the process would be to convene an initial child protection conference. You will be having, surprise, you will be having a mock initial child protection conference in a few weeks. That's the reaction I want. Is that a joke? Is that an ironic reaction? No, it's a problem.
No, I love those meetings.
So, the initial child protection conference would bring together all parties involved with the family and the family to talk about the concerns and to develop a plan. So there was talk of a plan. Who talked about the plan? It was someone here.
Yeah.
It's gone. Yeah. That's where the plan, with clear timescales and evidence of success, where that should be agreed. Okay. So that's the process. So, sorry, Michael.
No, I was just trying to confirm if that's the interplay. You're basically answering the question between local council and...
Yes.
Yeah.
So, the plan, depending on what comes out at the initial child protection conference, the plan would be determined about who's going to do what in terms of ongoing support for Zainab and Jack. So, so it might be that actually Zainab doesn't like a family support worker at Worcestershire Support Services, so actually they don't pick up. But it might be, that person at Worcestershire Support Services continues to deliver some support around X, Y, and Z, while other things happen elsewhere or whatever.
Another relevant skill that would be needed would be communicating with children
Yes.
The working together document did emphasize trying to hear from Jack.
Yes.
What does Jack want?
Yes.
And that will influence the plan.
Yes. So that segues us beautifully. You will be having a session as well on direct work with children with my colleague Pete Ayling. So he's going to deliver a session the 9th of December, rings a bell. He's going to be delivering a session with you about how to do effective work with children and young people. Because again, we will all have our own reaction to that, how we develop effective relationships with children of various ages. But yes, you know, it's a very, and depending on the age of the child, your approach would have to be quite different, yeah. So, I think we've got where we needed to get. I did have some clips about some conflict that we could look at, but we've run out of time. I will see you guys tomorrow at Sheila Scott. So just remember, be there for the time period, not just your slot, your time period. Come down to Sheila Scott, and then what are we doing Thursday? Oh, another practice Thursday online, yeah. Same deal as before. And then next week is your real assessed one. The schedule is up.
Are we having a normal session prior, or is it just coming for that time slot?
Yeah, we haven't got any more sessions.
And are we doing it in front of a panel of people as well?
They are watching live.
Oh, so they're not in
so
the
they're
room?
not in the room. So you will just be you one person. Yeah. We will do tomorrow. We will do our little mini supervision debrief. Thursday, we're going to do there's the journal thing again. Yeah. So do put your reflections, and I can interact with you on that journal. Yeah, because I did have to sort out all sorts of technical things last time, so I need to sort of be available to do that as well. Yeah. Okay, there is the Ask the Tutor thing about your assessment. If anyone wants to ask anything about that, put it on that. Yeah.
I have a question about the group presentation.
Yes, it is.
We finished ours. So what do we actually send you? This is you by email? Yes. I have the group presentation, but how yeah, the feedback. So she gives us more feedback in her email. Feedback.
So you need to send me the presentation.
She's giving us feedback. Do you need that as well, or just
I'm sending to our person tonight. He's been really responsive. Okay, so don't send it to you without hearing back from him. No, it'll late. He is really responsive. He takes like a day
You know where Rebecca House is?
Yes. So if you come in that area,
there's a little flap on your left, and it's there, so you don't walk into the university building itself.
This one is there. I think this is for the baby, right? This thing. Okay, then
it's not only for Jenna. It can be for every. It can be for anyone.
Yes.
It can be for anyone.
Could you email Lucy? Yeah, I'm going down. And just let Lucy know.
Yeah, I go straight for school.
What you want to say?
I don't even know where
First point, they close by 4.
By 4, really? Okay.
They close by 4. So
You said
I used to stay at
Hive.
the restaurant.
Okay, inside that, it makes sense.
There's, no, it doesn't look at the doorway. Obviously, impact members is part of the panel. Yes.
Daily routine. Okay, so I should start.
What are the teams like? Usually we have to cover and then how people manage their daily experience. He has a plan, what he likes to say. Is that your question? I come to, so it's the same thing, it's quite abrupt and then and you don't get any feedback and you go, right, that's you done.
Oh, so we don't put it past on that day?
No, because it goes on your pebble card, yeah. So I release all of the feedback together, so you'll have to wait until the last people have cleared off their feedback.
And then
yeah, I can't remember, I think I've got a little house book, which is probably on your timetables, but...
On Thursday, is it before and after every order? Take care of me for 2 How many sheets do you have? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's man, yeah. You do it for every. No? You do now?
Please let us
If I didn't have, I would have asked to meet with me. Yeah? So, so the feedback I gave is really just for your own development in terms of, but I wasn't concerned. Does that help? Reassurance, yeah?
So you have
yeah, like I say, if I had sisters,
Tuesday and Wednesday.
for work. Not the one they gave me as my last impression. I think we are Tuesday and Wednesday as my last PM. Your person is another issue. Everybody knows this thing is extra now. Extra, I did extra. And open it. Oh, you normally on it here so that the rules. So that they know that we are available.
That's your money.
No, thank you for raising. You know you're going to email me. I don't want you to be left like,
well, I didn't know what to say because I was in role play. That's what
yeah, I know, and then this is the thing. Some people use a lot of their situation, their own experience.
Yeah,
Some people use quite a little.
Exactly, yeah.
But no, so from what I know of Mark, he's not in a relationship. But I will double check because I don't know.
Yeah, because it's like everything that he was saying is like to me, and I'm thinking, oh, really?
Yeah.
It's such a quirky manner, and it's like really funny when I get annoyed.
Yeah. Has it been okay? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Have they recognised you and
I think Mark might have done.
Okay.
I think, and maybe probably Elizabeth.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. But it felt okay.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine. Panicking about getting the word muddled up and things.
Oh, no. Well, that happens to, you know, it's the nature of it, isn't it?
Yeah. Alright, thanks. I feel a bit better.
Yeah. All right. Well, good luck with the news.
I know. I'm off. 10 o'clock yesterday I went to.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll be soon anyway.
Fingers crossed. And I'll be a new baby soon.
You love it. See you later.